Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's Aligned Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Torrie Thompson, and this week we are going to dive into one of the, I don't want to say it's my favorite topics, but it's one that I'm very passionate about because there's so much bad information out there, and that is things that are not root causes that you're essentially wasting your money on, and things that are root causes and what you need to look at if you're experiencing some of the things that are not root causes. So I hear this all the time. Someone has done a food allergy test. They've cut out gluten. They've spent thousands of dollars on supplements. They've maybe done a Candida cleanse. They're on supplements for adrenal support. They're on histamine protocols. They've healed their leaky gut and they still don't feel great. I see this sadly time and time and time again. And that's because these aren't root causes. They're just effects of something deeper. And so there are several things that are very trendy in the functional medicine world that are often not root causes for most people. And if you go deeper and figure out what is causing it, then that's where you get the lasting results. Unfortunately, there's so many people that are health coaches or practitioners that either are on old, outdated information, don't exactly know what they're doing. I think they have the best of intentions, but don't exactly know what they're doing. And so often they will go at things like Candida or adrenal fatigue or hormone imbalances. And sadly, that's not why, someone's having their symptoms. It's just an effect of something deeper. So I want to give you guys this so you stop wasting your time, stop wasting your money on these things, and can really get to the root cause once and for all. So the first is adrenal fatigue. I think adrenal fatigue is absolutely a thing, right? Adrenal fatigue is when our body releases cortisol, the stress response hormone, for too long, whether that's from life stress, work, finances, kids, outside stress, or it's from internal stress. And that would be things like inflammation, mold, parasites, something internally is stressing your body out. Your adrenals will produce cortisol. Your cortisol stays high, and after a while, it can't keep producing cortisol at that level. And so essentially the adrenal glands get tired, get fatigued. Your cortisol is very flat. The big thing is often that doesn't just come out of the blue. It can for people. I will say that the little caveat to that is someone that's had like a major trauma all of a sudden, high stress can do it. But for most people, adrenal fatigue is not the root cause. It is merely an effect of something deeper. So yes, you can address it. You can add some adrenal support in there, but just going at someone's adrenal glands is just a Band-Aid. The second is leaky gut. Leaky gut, we see this all the time. People just need to do a leaky gut protocol. Just heal that leaky gut. Leaky gut is when your gut is tight. If you imagine your fingers locked together, it's tight. Nothing gets in, nothing gets out. Your food stays in the gut. The microbiome stays in the gut. But what happens is there's inflammation, there's infection, something signals for the gut to open, and now your food can leave your gut, your bacteria can leave the gut, and the body starts to have these immune reactions because it can't tell that that's just food that's left or a bacteria that's left, and the immune system starts attacking it. The big thing with leaky gut is you have to figure out why. The gut doesn't just go, you know what, today I'm going to open up. You have to figure out what the culprit is. Often it's things like parasites, mold mycotoxins, some of the nasty bacteria, Clostridia, H. pylori, but there's some sort of hit to the gut that has caused so much inflammation that it starts to leaky gut, starts the process of leaky gut. So going in and trying to heal a leaky gut without pulling out what caused it is essentially like if you were rollerblading and you fell down and you got road rash, and you've got rocks and dirt and all of that in your arm, and you just try to let it heal. It's not going to work very well, right? It's also the other analogy people use is it'd be like mopping up the floor when the faucet's still on. You're not going to get very far. It's not going to help. So leaky gut, if someone says, oh, you just need to heal your leaky gut, run. The next is a lot of these chronic viral reactivations, Epstein-Barr probably being the most common. When you come in contact with a virus, Epstein-Barr, it's estimated about 90% of the population carries Epstein-Barr. Your immune system will just keep it in check. These viruses never go away. Once you've been exposed, you've got them, they're hanging out, but the immune system can keep them under wraps. For most people, when you have these chronic Epstein-Barr flares or cytomegalo or HSV, what happens is it's telling you that your immune system is not super strong. It might be stressed out from other things. We see mold mycotoxins are a big one, parasites, some sort of hit to the body that has really caused the immune system to get a little worn down, which allows these viruses. They're very opportunistic. They just look for the perfect opportunity. The immune system's a little down, then they will pop up. So if you're someone dealing with that, go a little deeper. Parasites, mold, heavy metals, environmental toxins, H. pylori, Clostridia. Figure out what is causing the immune system to be a little weak. Then we've got food allergies and food sensitivities. A reactive immune system is really a sign of a deep imbalance, right? So often what happens is you've got the gut is wide open, food is now leaving the gut, hitting the bloodstream, and the body starts attacking it, thinking it's an invader. And when we attack something, our immune system attacks something, what happens is the body will actually remember it, and it has these memory soldiers. So you start getting stronger and stronger immune reactions every time you eat it. But it doesn't tell you that that's the problem, right? It doesn't mean just cut these foods out forever. It's figure out what's causing the gut to be leaky, what's causing the inflammation in the gut. Yes, you'll want to pull those food sensitivities and food allergies out while you're trying to work on healing the gut, but it's often just a sign that something's there. Something's causing the immune system to be hyperactive. The gut's a mess. Dig a little deeper. Then we've got histamine intolerance, and histamine is often a downstream symptom of liver toxic overload, poor methylation, gut damage, mold exposure, chronic stress. All of these can cause that chronic histamine reaction. Histamine is something that we naturally have. You're never going to get to know histamine. And if you're dealing with it, again, you need to pull the histamines out while you're addressing the root causes. However, it's not something that you should be on a low histamine diet forever. That is not the goal. You should be able to have a little bit of histamine and be okay. So again, supporting detox pathways, making sure that your toxin bucket's not full, quote unquote, your liver, that's what we're referring to, but making sure the toxic bucket's not full, supporting those detox pathways, making sure there's no mold, checking for other infections, and then supporting the body through detox. The next is Candida, and good old Candida. I think there was a time when everyone was worried about Candida, and still you hear people talk about today. Just do a Candida protocol. Candida is normal to our microbiome. It is opportunistic. So what that means, very similar to the viruses, that something else paves the way and Candida will follow. And the most common thing I see is mold mycotoxins. Mold mycotoxins are immunosuppressive. They'll lower the immune system, and that is Candida's time to shine. But Candida will really thrive in a weakened terrain, a weakened gut, a weak immune system, and you can't kill it, right? You can get it to go back down, but you're never going to get it to zero because we naturally have levels of Candida. So again, figure out what it's following. Mold, parasites, probably the two biggest guys. Figure out what it's following. Support the immune system, and then get rid of the mold or parasites, and often Candida will self-resolve. Then we've got hormonal imbalances, and this is one that I hear all the time. And, our hormones, with the exception of big shifts in going into menopause, we now live in a world with more hormone disruptors than ever before. We're exposed to hundreds, if not thousands a day, depending on your lifestyle. And all of these things affect estrogen. They affect our progesterone. They affect our testosterone. So if you're someone struggling with hormonal imbalances, the first thing to do is a toxic panel and see, do you have a bunch of hormone disruptors in your system? If you've got a bunch of plastics, pesticides, VOCs, phthalates, parabens in your body stored, and this could be from years and years ago. Doesn't mean it's your current environment. But if you've got these stored, the hormones are not going to be balanced. We are not going to have a really great, hormone metabolism. We're not going to have great amounts of them because the body can't really tell the difference between these xenoestrogens and the actual estrogen. So that's this first step. And then the other piece is our hormones are metabolized in the liver. So often, because our toxic buckets are so full, the estrogen metabolism gets very wonky. We end up in estrogen dominance, but really our hormone metabolism can get very off just because the liver is so overburdened with the toxic load that we're exposed to every single day. So again, all of those things generally not root causes. Of course, there are special occasions where they all can be, but generally they're not. So what are the real root causes? What are the deep guys that you want to go look for that can affect all of those things we just talked about? The first is mold mycotoxins. This is probably the most important one because they're so disruptive to the body. Mold mycotoxins are immunosuppressive. So they bring down the immune system. So what that does is it allows Candida to overgrow or bacteria to overgrow, creating things like SIBO. It's going to block your detox pathways. It's going to possibly cause histamine intolerances. It can cause leaky gut. So mold mycotoxins can be massively disruptive to the body. We get them from two places. We get them from water damaged buildings at any point in our life, and then food sources. Coffee, grains, and peanuts are the big guys there. And other symptoms to look for of mold mycotoxins would be brain fog, fatigue, anxiety, sinus issues, mast cell activation, chemical sensitivity, hormone imbalances, insomnia. You can do a mold mycotoxin test, right? See what's in your body. Is that it's generally part of a toxin panel to see if it's a problem. The second is parasites. Parasites are everywhere. People love to think that we do not have them here in America, but they are very, very common. Especially if you've got pets, you like sushi, you eat raw vegetables. If you've got mold mycotoxins, it makes it an easier environment for these parasites to survive. But parasites will dysregulate the immune system. They will cause a lot of inflammation in the gut, can create leaky gut. They release ammonia and different toxins in the body, and then they produce biofilms, which toxins can hang out in, all massively inflammatory to the gut. There's not a stellar way to test for them. Often stool tests don't pick them up. You can look for eosinophils in blood. However, I just recommend doing a parasite cleanse with someone, with a practitioner once a year, just to make sure that you've cleared your system. Most of the world will actually do, deworming once or twice a year. We just don't here in the Western world. Then we've got environmental toxins. So these are pesticides, plastics, so BPA, phthalates, parabens. We have VOCs. We have flame and fire retardants. These are going to disrupt the hormones. They're going to damage the mitochondria, which make all of our energy. They're going to contribute possibly to metabolic issues, immune issues, autoimmune conditions. They're going to really burden the body, really burden the liver. And as time goes by, our toxic load just gets higher and higher. Even on people that have perfect lifestyles now, they often have toxins from the years of plastics and pesticides and all of that before they changed over to the cleaner stuff. If you're someone that's super sensitive to smells like perfume and chemicals, if you're sensitive to supplements, if you have weight gain that you can't seem to get off, can all be a sign of toxic overload. Then we've got heavy metals. Heavy metals and environmental toxins go hand in hand. Heavy metals are just naturally in the Earth's surface. So these are things like aluminum, arsenic, cesium, mercury. They are naturally occurring in the Earth. And then, of course, we use them industrially as well. But we see them, they're neurotoxic, they're immunosuppressive, they can be stored in the fat, stored in bones, stored in the brain. They often, if you have a very high mold level, you have a parasite or biofilm producer, you often see a very high heavy metal load. The body just holds on to them rather than moves them through. We get exposed to these through our food, through unfiltered water. We get exposed to them through the air, certain pesticides, through seafood, through brown rice. But heavy metals are something that are quite common. Again, if you don't have a very high toxic load, your body should be able to move them. But a lot of people will just accumulate because their body can't handle anymore. People often associate it with brain fog, anxiety, ringing in the ears, poor memory, fatigue, thyroid issues. You can do heavy metal testing. Again, it's all in the toxin panel. Mold mycotoxins, heavy metals, environmental toxins all come together, and it's all through urine testing. You can do a hair sample, but your hair cannot have been dyed. That is the downside because you will see all sorts of heavy metals in it. You can do provoked, but if you do a provoked test, essentially you take something to push it out of your tissues. You need to be working with a practitioner to make sure that they can help guide you through any sort of reactions that you may have. Another one is the Lyme co-infections. This is something that very near and dear to me. It was what my big root cause was. Of course, I had molds and environmental toxins and metals, but Lyme disease was really what was causing my symptoms. So it's Lyme and then co-infections, Babesia, Bart, Ehrlichia, Mycoplasma, any of the other co-infections. And these pathogens wreak absolute havoc on the immune system. They are very hard for the body to figure out what's going on. They can remain dormant for years and years, and they'll just reactivate. So chronic stress will reactivate these guys. They often just cause mystery symptoms for many people, including myself. We go to doctor after doctor after doctor, and no one can piece the puzzle together. But, if I always say, if you know you've been bit by a tick, but even people, I never remember being bit by a tick. If you have symptoms that symptoms haven't gotten better and you've detoxed mold, you've cleared heavy metals, environmental toxins, parasites, and your symptoms are still there, that's when going down the Lyme avenue is very helpful to see, is that a possibility of something else that's missed? So how do we tell what is the root cause and what's not? Again, figuring out why. Go back to those root causes. There's not a ton of them. Toxins, infections, right? And so you got mold mycotoxins, parasites, some of the Lyme guys, heavy metals, environmental toxins. Generally, that's it. So you want to do the testing that's going to get the deepest root causes. So I love environmental toxins or the tox panel. I love doing a stool test. I love organic acids test. That gives you pretty much all the clues with the exception of doing a Lyme test. And then from there, once you start to pull out the root causes, then you can do some of the upstream things, hormones, the adrenals. You can start to look at the gut lining. You can start to look at food sensitivities, as these things should be starting to heal. If the root cause has gone off in the body, we'll start to work on healing those things itself. So what you want to do first, again, test for your root causes, figure out what exactly is going on, and then you can put a game plan together. Before diving into any of that, you need to support drainage pathways and go through a detox protocol with a practitioner. But find your root causes first. Do the testing. Once you have that, then you can come up with a game plan. But I really don't recommend looking at some of these upstream things before figuring out your root cause, because again, they're just band-aids. So figure out your root cause, and then from there you can come up with a game plan. But it's just a matter of going as deep as you possibly can. And it's like pulling out a weed, right? If you just keep pulling the leaves off, it's going to grow back. It's going to grow back. But go as deep as you possibly can, pluck it out from the root. And that's where you get lasting help. I know it's a lot harder. It's a lot more work, but it's very much possible. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you next week.